be heading off into the weeds and deliberating.
Hey, guys.
So Rose, Paul, Nolan, Lindsay, Royce,
Lindsay,
Chad, Michelle. That's seven.
Right, so we're at 6.
But you said Lindsay's no longer.
Lindsay's stuff now.
So if you can reduce to 7 and find one replacement, you're okay.
Yeah. Okay. Hey,
You
guys.
have people on board.
Yeah, okay. I think everyone's out there. Can you guys hear us? Yay, nay?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Wow, you're loud.
It looks like Nolan's a baby crew.
No one's here. He's showing up. Okay. Okay.
Oh.
I don't want.
I
Let me see if I can switch this camera to be the room here. Oh, okay. Wait, I'm gonna find blur on. I think that's okay. There you go. Cool. Okay. Hold on. I'll get everything set up here. Thank you guys for being on today. I wasn't quite sure, but we've got quorum, so that's all good. Okay. I'm gonna open this Google Docs. Let me see if I can share my screen. There it is. Okay. Does that work? You guys, can you see the agenda now?
Yes.
Okay. Sweet. Okay. Cool. Okay. I will call us to order at 6:08. And we will start with reviewing and approving the agenda. I guess, do you guys have any amendments that you want to make to
would
it?
like to add a discussion about quorums and
Okay,
change of membership number.
okay. Any other amendments?
Quora,
Sorry, your recording going.
Yeah, the recording, yeah. Any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I move to approve the agenda with the addition of a discussion on quorum. Or I guess a discussion on committee, let's just say committee structure or commission structure.
Okay.
And that'll slot in at, let's do it after item 5, so it'll be the new item 6. After the Hubbard Park signage. Number 6. Okay, so the full motion, I move to approve the agenda with the addition of a discussion on commission structure after item 5, which will be the new item 6. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Royce has the second. Do I have any opposed? Okay, hearing none.
Oh, wait a minute, everybody who's remote has to announce themselves first before you can start beating or take a vote.
Okay, do you guys want to announce yourselves?
I'm Paul. Hi. I'm Royce.
Nolan,
I'm Nolan.
thanks. All right, so we've got Paul, Nolan, Royce, Michelle, and Rose. Wait, we're only missing Jazz. So I got second from Royce. Are any opposed? All right, that passes on unanimous consent. Moving on to the approval of the May and June meeting minutes. I sent them out ahead of time. Does anyone, I guess I move to approve the May and June meeting minutes.
I second.
Okay,
Hmm.
do I hear any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Passes by unanimous consent. And we do have a member of the public here with us. And I will open the floor for public comment.
I just have a few minutes to address something that I'm working on a lot. Steve Whitaker. I want to return to something I left unresolved at your last meeting, that the prime agricultural soils issue at Country Club Road came up at that meeting. And the chair left it as an open question, not to me, but to you commissioners. If any of you wanted it on the agenda for tonight, you needed to contact her afterwards, and she would decide then whether to add it. I want to say directly and respectfully, that isn't the right process. A public body doesn't get to resolve whether to take up a matter of clear public interest through a private, off-the-record conversation. On my spot. Between the chair and individual commissioners. If commissioners have questions or reservations about taking this up, that discussion needs to happen here in open session on the record where the rest of the commission and the public can hear it. Individual commissioners quietly signaling the chair outside a notice meeting isn't just poor practice, it's the kind of piecemeal, off the record decision making that public meeting law, open meeting law exists to prevent. So I'm bringing it back tonight in open session, asking that it be placed on the agenda, or that the commission explain on the record why it won't be. Here's why I think you're obligated to take it up, not just entitled to. 203 Country Club Road is a documented brownfield enrolled in Vermont's BRELA program since July 8th of 22. Phase 2 environmental testing confirmed heavy metal and pesticide contamination, arsenic, lead, mercury, heptachloropoxide, concentrated in the former golf greens. We don't know where else. The site also contains some of the most productive prime agricultural soils in Washington County. The city's own planning director acknowledged this directly in writing to the state's land use review board, proposing to develop over on top of 20 acres of prime ag soils, which are protected under both Act 250's agricultural soils criteria 9B and under the Federal Farmland Protection Act. Nobody has delineated where the contamination ends and where the clean prime soil begins. Undelineated doesn't mean clean, it means unknown. That gap matters under two frameworks this commission sits at the intersection of. Act 250 exists to protect prime ag soils from unmitigated conversion. Federal EPA guidance says residential cleanup standards don't cover the food production pathway. Growing food safely requires a separate, more rigorous analysis. Right now, produce from the feast farm on this property already goes to the seniors through the Meals on Wheels program from soil never characterized for that pathway. That's not hypothetical. That's food already leaving the site and being ingested. There's an opportunity here too, not just a problem. As far as I know, no one in Vermont or anywhere in the country has designed a site investigation that does both jobs at once, determines which soils are safe to build on, and delineates, protects, or redistributes the prime agricultural soils worth saving. The Agency of Agriculture has documented technical sequence for exactly that kind of preservation: delineate, excavate, stockpile, protect, redistribute, but no one has been assigned to apply it here, and no one has paired it with a brownfield investigation. I've already asked Department of Environmental Conservation Sites Management Section to convene the DEC, the Agency of Agriculture, the Central Vermont Natural Resources Conservation District to design that joint process. This commission could be the local body that pushes that coordination forward. And in so doing, sets a national model for other brownfield to farmland sites that could follow. That's a legacy worth claiming, and it starts with getting this on your agenda. I'm asking you to put it on an agenda in open session with time for real discussion. And if the commission decides not to, I'm asking that you say so and say why on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't think I have followed all of that. So if you said it really simple for a social worker who doesn't follow.
In a nutshell, we are in the middle of a multi-hundred acre community-owned property
Right,
that has some poison on it.
right.
The kids are near the
And
poison.
that's been documented.
Yeah, the
Okay.
kids are near the poison and the seniors are eating from the fields, but that have not been fully tested. Those are two alarms that should go off. The
Right,
second is that we're proposing to enter a development agreement and we're doing an environmental site assessment that can't really be done properly without inventing a new process of protecting the prime ag soils, which is directly the scope of this commission, and doing the brownfield investigation simultaneously. Because everywhere you sample, you are either gonna find clean prime ag soils, in which case you define a boundary of what we're gonna protect it. And we're gonna find clean areas or we're gonna find poison areas, and then you're gonna figure out how you're gonna clean up the poison areas. And
and that's why it's a two-pronged,
yes,
okay,
but the fact that it's really the same field work that could be doing both, but it requires a design that I can't find any evidence anyone's ever done before. But this is such prime soil, prime agricultural soil that could support a significant portion of Montpelier's produce, you know.
so why don't you think there's been a design before, a process design?
Because
before?
Vermont and federal prime ag preservation typically haven't applied when other people have cleaned up brownfields in other parts of the country. So it's this unique combination of federal, because we're getting 5 million in HUD money. That's the Federal Farmland Protection Act, overlaps with the Act 259B criteria, preserve prime ag soils. And the brownfield investigation all at once. And our city does not have the planning capacity. Same person you mentioned.
Right, that's where. My understanding of our role as the Conservation Commission is that we do not have any permitting authority. The most permitting authority that we do have is within the riparian buffer, and even in that, it is not authority. All that we can do is make a recommendation to the GRB. We do not have any other advisory capacity that's like enabled to us.
I think you're misinterpreting it. Your advisory capacity is for all of our natural resources, not just, and it's not related to permitting. This is not permitting discussion I'm raising. This is a investigation and a protection mode that we have not defined.
Right, yeah, but that's where, I mean, the most action that we as a commission could take is providing some letter of some, again, advisory documentation to the council, and that's it. That's the only capacity that we have
And
as
we don't-
this commission.
We can do that on issues that we see and not just at the request of the, whatever it is, DI.
I
Yes.
think we need to get broader advice than your understanding of what because planning commission is where. The planning commission has failed to plan for this parcel entirely. They were told by the planning director to stay out of it. The council's handling that. So we've got a deficient city plan. And y'all are supposed to be implementing the city plan, and you could be saying, wait a minute, what do we do about this black box in the middle of the city plan? It's got some of the best resources that they want to be involved in. So you've got more power than you think you have.
That could be true. I have not seen it in action, so You know,
So, I always ask people, what would somebody say who disagrees with you?
I don't know, I'd have to work on that. I think probably some of what Rose just said, but that's more from a skeptical, I don't really understand the boundaries of it. If somebody who's trying to undermine jurisdiction, conservation commissions are created in statute.
But
Conservation commissions are not a creation of the city, they are created in statute and empowered in statute. So that's a different league, that's like the planning commission and the development review board.
I guess I'm just saying that I'm currently a board member of the Association of Vermont Conservation Commissions at the state level. And I do not have the understanding that Montpelier has allowed us the jurisdiction that other cities do to their conservation commission. Because the statutory inclusion in the Vermont state statute does limit our abilities to have, it cites that we're an advisory council. Some towns do opt to give more regulatory authority.
So I'm not saying
Some
you will
towns
become an executive body, I'm saying, but the weight that your advisory opinions and actions have has to be taken seriously by not only the council, but the planning commission and the development review board. And it may actually, may or may not create standing, you know, in a contested case, but you never know. The Defender General once told me, and it really stuck, you don't have any rights unless you exercise them.
Right, yeah. That's where we've had moments in past with much smaller stakes situations in town, and we have not had we've done the whole process. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily make a difference in
And the whole city,
how that happens.
and our whole city is civic culture is beat down by having the housing committee, 5 women resigned off the housing committee because the city planner refused to
well,
take.
rather than characterize what's going on, I'm just trying to figure out what are some options that we might.
Our option would be to develop again in quorum a draft, basic, or someone develop that draft and bring it to our next meeting to then vote on whether that's something that we as a commission
Right,
would put forward to the council. That's essentially what we've done in the past, is
Right.
that, you know, someone who cares, who wants their opinion put forward, is that person would draft that, and then we
Right.
would workshop it in an open meeting.
right,
And then we would approve it, right, as drafted, or if there's certain little comments, right, we might leave it for that one person to make those edits. Then it goes, you know, it would then be sent from me as the chair onward with a CC to the rest of the body.
is it possible to inquire about the status of this kind of a review as a commission saying, you know, the public has brought it to
Yeah.
our attention that
Yeah,
these 2 issues are outstanding, and we would like to know the status and the process
yeah,
that's being
we could for
contemplated.
sure do that, yeah.
Why don't we do that?
Basically ask for the city council to give us additional information.
Right,
Yeah, we can for sure send it. Whether they respond is
yeah,
TBD, but
well, we,
yeah, we can ask the question of, you know, has there been a site, has that been done? And I mean, Kier did respond with some context in like, you know, I think that Kier had given us a link in our of like whatever site assessment that they had done, whatever that
I might have
like.
missed that.
Yeah, but I think it was like right after our meeting last time.
Oh, shoot,
There's an update about that link, that link, there was an environmental site assessment done in 22, phase 1. There was in 2025, after I started asking questions, they completed a phase 2 site assessment. And now that they've got this $5 million grant hanging, no site assessment phase 1 is valid after 1 year.
Right.
So they're back to starting over with a phase 1 site assessment again. And then they will scope the phase 2 after that, which probably will obviate the need for a supplemental, which is the path they were on. So, but do you really want to dive into a 300-page study of here's where all the sample holes were taken, and here's where we found these milligram concentrations of lead, and that's beyond what I think the capacity of the Conservation Commission could do. There could be a summary that educates that commission on what was revealed in that phase 2 environmental site assessment, but the real work becomes defining how do you want to protect what's there, and how do you want to make sure that this ship doesn't move faster than your opportunity to do so, and do you want to actually embrace the opportunity to help design, guide, and supervise a joint brownfield delineation and prime ag soil protection methodology, because that would be real work, but it would be real rewarding too.
I would be curious if they sought a farmland protection policy act exemption. That's what my
Not yet.
that's what I would expect them to do. That's just generally what you see happening on sites like that.
You're the only one, you and I are the only ones who know what that means, so.
Right, but that's
Right.
where, I mean, typically, I mean, I used to work for USDA doing permitting. So that's
Yeah.
where it's like, you know, that's typically what you see, that size acreage, the NRCS would generally do an assessment and then issue an exemption to allow building. That's generally what happens, but the issue is also the brownfield, which is handled separately under the national plan.
There's also a jurisdictional opinion coming.
Yeah.
On whether Act 250 applies, in
Right.
which case. Criteria 9B is hardcore protection of prime ag soils.
Right.
And the city doesn't have a big bank account to try to buy twice as many somewhere else to mitigate damaging leaves.
Right.
We have to first determine how many of them are clean and worth preserving. And that means we gotta get involved in the brownfield assessment and make sure its methodology is structured to give us the information on protecting. Cause if you start scraping off the toxic soils without protecting the good ones, you're gonna ruin all of them. You know,
Yeah, it's a fun
and
complex.
the city's RFP to developers said this is gonna be a walkable community with gardens.
Yeah.
So right now, we're not on path, it's not even safe to be feeding people produce from the gardens that are up there.
Yeah.
So let me just ask that you put this on the agenda for a future meeting, because I feel like I'm hogging your public
No.
comment time, and your
I
other
mean,
members need to weigh.
yeah, we can definitely put it on the agenda. I don't expect, like, to be completely transparent, I do not know that we on this commission have the expertise to weigh in.
But you could develop it, or recruit it, or ask the city for some access to some consultants. You could have direct access to Stone Environmental and.
Right.
Right?
I mean, yes, with our $2,000 budget,
No,
You
the
know.
committee doesn't need to do that. City's got them under contract. In fact, EPA has granted $2.2 billion to the Regional Planning Commission for assessments, and this is a unique project that probably won't cost the city much, if anything.
Yeah.
In fact, it includes marketing studies. Who wants to live there,
right?
right?
So, is the question. One question is what we should do, and the other question is what we have the scope to do.
Scope, I think that realistically, the scope, like, if we wanted to engage with the Regional Planning Commission, we wanted to engage with the city council, we would be able to engage as a public body, like,
Right.
just like any other public body. The reality is that that comes down to who has the capacity to actually do the engagement.
Right,
I do not.
right.
So unless someone wants to take on that level of engagement,
It sounds very
That's-
complex.
where it, like, you know, I mean, we've been trying to. We are a commission that does not meet quorum often. We're a commission who had incredibly high turnover over the last 3
Yeah.
years. And so, based on our plan and our discussion last year, our decision was we were going to try to chop off one project, do one project successfully,
Yeah.
which is our interpretive science project. I think that I would love to see a more engaged commission where people took up more outside of just our meetings. That person cannot always be me.
Right,
So,
Right.
you know, I am more than happy to put it on our agenda, but I am saying now that it cannot be the sole responsibility of me doing this coordination with all of these parties.
right.
So
And you're-
unless there is the desire as the commission as a whole to pursue this, which it is a very complex regulatory landscape. You know, I would need, it would have to be a decision and a commitment of the whole commission to carry forward.
Is there anybody else that has the kind of expertise you have? I don't.
You know, Paul's a little bit out there, you know, more in the
Yeah,
water, but not
I-
on contamination.
Yeah, I don't have anything in the regulatory. I mean, my career largely avoided that. So,
Paul took the more fun side of environmental planning. Unfortunately, I was on the regulatory side, so that's where it's like, and even when I came on the commission, there was not, I don't know how much expertise in regulatory has ever existed on this
Yeah.
commission. So that's where, I mean, but it's really just a coordination, right? I mean, it's coordinating with the conservation district, who is going to ultimately do the Farmland Protected Policy Act determination. That's all through NRCS. The brownfield side is something that the town will have to do as part of their federal money. It's just a matter of, I wonder if they are. I wonder if they're not going to do their renewed phase one because they don't expect to get their actual money in the next year. Because that's what you see a lot with these projects, is that essentially you'll do the phase one, you'll do the phase two, it'll sit waiting for federal approval, essentially. It's probably been, and you're also seeking all the other permits at the same time. You're seeking your wildlife permit, you're seeking your cultural resource, permit, you're seeking all these different permits. Typically, that experience takes longer than your phase one is good for. So typically what you would see happen in a non-brownfield site, so something that's not going to be a major remediation project, you would typically see that phase one be last. Generally, that's at least what you would typically see on like a agricultural operation, is that's the general advisement, is that, so long as it does depend a little, because depending on your remediation, you're gonna have to reconsult with your historic
permits, yeah.
Yeah, because
Gotcha.
if you're doing ground disturbance, you're basically getting a cultural resource assessment done on top of it. So it's not just your remediation, it's not just your farmland. At the same time, they're also digging pits for cultural resources. So that's where typically you see it sequenced, where cultural resources is almost last. Right before that, you have your remediation. Before that, you have all your wetland permitting, your EPA permitting, your, all of the rest of the stuff that's gonna be like the primary. It's just that when you have a brownfield site, it's like basically it falls into a separate environmental review process totally. Like it comes out of the typical structure that you would see, and it goes into a different federal process. The thing in Vermont is that there is a state level process that then can set off those timelines even more from each other, because you're trying to meet state requirements, because they typically won't take, like, the state won't take the federal review because the federal review is done at a higher level. The state typically has like more specific review requirements. So sometimes you'll see it where the federal agency will take the state level review.
Okay.
But I have not heard of that happening a whole lot with our Act 250 reviews, but it does happen in like California. You'll see like California has like a state level environmental planning process that does actually supplement, for most federal agencies, supplements the federal review. But I've not seen or heard of many projects that happens in Vermont, and I'm not sure if it's just because of the relationship with federal partners. I have no idea, but I've not seen that like supplemental review kick in where you wouldn't have to do two. Most of them I've seen it as you're doing the state process, you're doing the federal process, and one can't stand it for the other in Vermont, but there are states that it happens.
There's a second RFP already on the street. I think proposals are due next week or this week.
Yeah,
And it is required to meet the federal HUD standard,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is an
but-
ANSI standard
yeah,
that the state standard doesn't require. So the responding vendors or soil specialists
Mhm.
have to. At a phase, it is for a phase one that was added. So there is a phase one. On this RFP on the street now to meet the federal standard.
yeah,
And there's plenty of time to, and I would maybe put this in your recruitment. Look, you know, describe this issue
yeah,
and this new future land use map being approved probably this year by the regional commission
yeah,
is proposing to put almost 2,000 acres of Montpelier into planned growth area. And some of that's gonna hit brownfields.
Yeah.
So maybe when you're looking for new members, try to cultivate the breadth
yeah,
of experience that you have, you know?
yeah, yeah, it's a hard find. A lot of people who are doing that are also on other, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
where it's like my whole network of people who
Yeah.
kind of like work in this space, it's like they're on a separate board or they're on, you know,
Yeah.
they do it for their work and they don't want to do it for
Right.
volunteering. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough to get people, especially the contamination, because I don't think a lot of people tend to think that that would be something that would be the focus here. Like typically you'd see contamination under like something like public works, like a lot of people do, but
Y'all have the.
I think flooding
independent-
has raised the issue.
right,
You have the independence to be an honest. Due diligence that city staff do not have the discretion to do. They're told by their boss what to emphasize or ignore. And so this is almost like you're the conscience of environmental preservation. Being an independent commission and you.
yes. I mean, yes, and I think that we did do a letter of, you know, a formal input letter at the beginning of the design process, and I do think the commission was largely at that time supportive of the housing there. It is not solely my decision, so that's where, you know, yeah, I think it depends on what the makeup of the commission is and how everyone does see conservation and whether a piece of land like Country Club is the type of conservation that we're looking to do, or whether housing trumps that. And I think that's where it just depends on the composition of the commission, but largely when they were doing initial design, I do think the commission leaned more towards being supportive of the housing development over the preservation of the agricultural lands that would have been the golf course. So,
If we put it on the agenda, it sounds to me like the question is whether in our current makeup, we have the capacity to respond to the issue. Not that it isn't important, but that may not have the capacity to.
I think it's also the discussion of, I think it would be more so the consideration of whether there is concern from, right, like whether that is something the commission would like to see as conserved land. I mean, that's really the front of this is the commission, does the commission want to see that as conserved land? If yes, then it becomes the capacity question. But if the commission would rather see that as developed land, right, then you're asking for, right, if we're asking for capacity, I'm making the assumption that everyone would like to see it as conserved land as opposed to housing.
Oh, I see.
Right.
But I would push back on that, even the city's plans that have been announced it's 135 or 137 acres. And only 20 or 40 of it are gonna get developed, so the city envisions conserved land
On
surrounding
the
this.
outside, and that was our initial,
And-
that was our initial input, was to have all of the existing forested acreage be untouched, and that is what has happened in the long, not
There's
completely, but.
there's no
there
set
is-
plan for any of it yet.
Right, it's not finalized, but of most, the three proposals that they evaluated largely kept the forested tracts untouched. That's generally been what I've seen in the proposals that came out, the three that they had voted on. But again, there's no commitment to that plan once it's just a plan, not to say that it could
Right.
change, right? Like, it's very easy to change.
No, but there is no plan in the city plan yet.
Right.
And that's the one you're supposed to be enforcing, and so you don't know what to be enforcing because the city plan failed to include it.
Right,
So, but there will be significant open lands and wetlands and ravines and all kinds of worth preserving and protecting, but you don't know where to begin, because until the corrective action plan is completed after the new phase 1 and new phase 2 environmental site assessment, we don't know what areas might have to be perpetually capped and regulated and recorded in the land registry, or which areas might be off limits to digging for water lines or sewer lines. So there's a whole delicate balance, which I would say the commission ought to be thoroughly involved in making sure that it gets done right, so that the remainder of the land that isn't getting developed for housing is protected as conserved land, worth conserving,
right.
you know?
I guess just one clarification, we have no enforcement ability on this commission. We said enforcement, we have no enforcement authority in any capacity.
So where are we? I'm aware of the time, but,
I will put this on the agenda for,
and what is the question that we're putting on the agenda?
the question is whether we would like to pursue a letter of comment to the city council.
That's not the question. It's not a letter of comment. It's gonna probably be, I think you should get some expertise in from either NRCS or the Regional Planning Commission. Basically, learn how this is gonna unfold, because they don't yet know.
Right,
DEC is wrestling with, okay, he's brought up some really important points about how do we do prime ag soil preservation while we do a brownfield, and they're inventing the process. And so I think they would welcome having a local group, the developer, city council, city manager, city planner, negotiating team with the developer is not the people to be looking out for conserving the resources. That would fit much more appropriately in this committee. And you would be probably advising them in an ongoing fashion as you see iterations, if that plan even holds.
right. I think the first step would be to have a letter of desire to engage, right? I mean, I think that's where I want to know from everyone on this commission that everyone has an equal desire to engage here. Or at least the majority, right? I think if there is not the desire to engage, then I don't want to go down the road of chasing down these contacts individually, because if I do that,
Right.
you know what I mean, like, then it is solely
It's all
me,
you
and
know.
so, I mean, I think it's really a decision of, does the commission want to engage? Is this within the perceived almost work plan of the commission, if you will? Like, you know, would this be added to our like intended
Right.
like projects, if you will? Because this would be an ongoing engagement, like, absolutely. So.
Rose, do we also need to like step further back and just, I'm still not clear on what falls within our authority, like based on the time that I've been on the commission, which is not very long, this is not fitting in with anything we've done. So what do we have the authority to do at all? And where would we find that out? Where would we get this kind of outline?
I think that we have a, I think almost everyone aside from Michelle has seen this, but we did about a year and change ago, we had a meeting that we had I did a slide deck that was basically, this is what our authority is in statute, this is what our, regulatory nexus is at the city level. I can send that that slide deck back out, but that is what's in it written down, right? Not to say that there's not other rules that are not written down, but that is what is written within
Right.
the, the city's regulations and then the state statute. So I can send that around that slide deck so that people at least had some
Right.
bearing, right? In that discussion.
Is there a recording of that?
I presume so. I mean, every meeting we
And
have is recorded.
Could you find someone not meshed in Montpelier politics from the Association of Conservation Commissions who could come and help us think through it without the tension of, and consider doing your recruiting before you make this decision, because you're
Right.
you're lacking capacity, which is creating a suppression of engagement willingness, and yet this is probably the most important thing you could.
Well, I look forward to your application for the commission, so. I
Yes.
think, if you care deeply, why are you here on this commission? I mean, that's my question.
I'm participating, but I'm in litigation with the city, so on other matters, and it's.
Well, then you should have some friends who I see their applications for.
Yeah, so we are recruiting, but
We are,
not
so
successful.
that's where,
We haven't been successful, so if you can.
I
Yeah,
accept-
we're not turning people away.
we're not turning anyone away, so that's where, but the council
So,
does
yeah.
have to approve anyone, so that's where. I imagine if you're in litigation, that would be difficult, but doesn't mean that you don't have friends that you could send our way, so. Okay, well, thank you for that discussion. We will add a decision on whether we are committed to doing this work. I will do, I will reach out to Evelyn to post for our vacancy, which again, we don't get a lot of hits. Someone wants to redo our front porch forum post of like, hey, please come join. That would be the goal as well, to go alongside the city's, whatever the city puts out regularly for their call, but that's what we generally do, is that we have some, it's been me or, Ben or whoever, post a little thing on Front Porch Forum, but you just do that as your personal, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Just
it's
like-
a,
there's a vacant.
hey, I'm on this commission,
I'll do
this
that.
is something that we have coming up. If you have expertise in this, we'd love for you to put your application in and like, sit on the commission. That would be good.
Expertise in what?
Expertise in, ideally, it would be someone with expertise in, remediation and agricultural conservation. That's what I would say. That would be my recommendation for the wording. Or remediation and or agricultural conservation.
You need to say brownfield remediation, or is remediation already?
Remediation probably is.
Remediation and or which? Say it again.
And or agricultural conservation. Or like,
Ag soils.
yeah, agricultural conservation, we typically would be like a soil.
And then I'll try to beat the bushes for who can come speak to your next meeting. It'd be good not to force a decision, yes or no, at the next meeting, especially if we don't have a new
Yeah,
quorum.
right. Yeah.
So, and underlying this is, the commission has set out some work plans, and is this urgent enough to bump them?
Well, so our agenda today has
Yes.
project planning for upcoming year. So, that's where, that's what
Okay,
we either, again, I've had this on the agenda the last couple
Yeah.
meetings. So it's just like, I want to try to get an idea, like we are in the new fiscal year, like what is the 1 to 3 like priorities we're gonna be focused on
Right.
in this
Right,
fiscal year, right? So the connected backyards is one of those, so. Okay. Are we all good with that discussion?
I'm very confused.
Okay. Okay, hearing none, I'll move us to our next business item, which is our signage project working session. So just reviewing the art and any other any last minute changes to two of the signs. So okay. Let me just write this here. And a little upload. Okay.
What they happen, right?
Well, so basically, the general updates is that our updates, we are going to target in October 20, because basically, Parks, right, because they're doing the installation for the signs. Parks has the Enchanted Forest experience in middle to end of October. And so that's where, or I think it's early to middle October, like I think it's sometime the week of like the 12th maybe is the Enchanted Forest. And so ultimately, we're hoping that we would be able to be following the Enchanted Forest so that Parks isn't trying to like install during their week of events. So our goal would be having our event on basically the last weekend of the season. So October 24th would be the goal. So put it in your calendars, because that's what we've committed to with Parks, is that they'll be doing installation that week, or the week before, and then we'll have and it's very possible that the signs are actually up during Enchanted Forest, but doing an event on top of Enchanted Forest is what they didn't want. So that's where it's possible they might be up for Enchanted Forest, but we'll actually do the event, the like trail walk, the following weekend. So October 24th is what we're aiming for there. The art, essentially the wetlands sign, and the hemlock sign both have gone to or are finished. I don't know that I think that you guys have seen that. Let me see if I'm may have the okay, so here's the updated hemlock sign.
That looks great.
Yeah, this one's like Amy said that this is like probably her favorite sign she's ever done. Yeah, it looks awesome. So it's very cute. It's got the rings, so
The biggest threat to our forests are these deer.
I know.
Oh well, but
They're
very
well, it's
beautiful.
near the deer yard, so that's where it's like, the spot where the sign's going is kind of right near the deer yard. So
Thank you.
so yeah, that's where
Thanks.
ultimately this is where it's at for Eastern Hemlock. So this one, I don't think she sent it to get scanned. So basically the way that the process works is that all of the like the text and all of the like, I don't know, graphic stuff, all of that gets posed onto a watercolor scan. So essentially the artist has to take it has to send it to someone to scan the art. And so the hemlock art has gone to scan and the wetlands art has gone to scan.
Cool.
So then we can move boxes if we need to, or we've got this to learn more about that can be added in before it goes to print. But the art is done. So that's where hopefully I think this one turned out really well. So
It does. I like the mist in the back, and
yeah, I think
really
it looks very
nice.
cool. So and then nothing has changed much with the wetlands one. I don't know, but where I've got it here. Hemlock, panels 1 through 3. I think this has the wetlands one. That is, this one.
I like that one too.
Yeah, that one's also sent for scan. So we might do a couple little labels of the little creatures around, right?
Oh, I like
that
little
are-
fox jumping.
I know, that one's so cute.
That
So
looks great. Well,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited for these ones. I don't have the update for the watershed, but she did start doing all the background of it, and it does look a lot more reasonable when this is actually colored in blue, and it's like, and she's also going to, she didn't send me any pictures ahead of time, but basically on this, so all of this area that's around it, like the blue open space, she's gonna add 5 little creatures, like watercolor, almost creatures that'll be in her style, that'll then be able to be moved throughout the sign, so they'll be like, almost like clip art where we can position them over top the watercolor base. And so she's gonna do, I think she's gonna do beaver, she's gonna do a type of water like insect, like a waterborne insect type of deal. She's gonna do a great blue heron, and then a school of like what is it, like brook trout, I think, minnows. So she had drawn up she didn't send me an email, but when we met on Monday, she had showed, she showed me her sketch pad of at least the beaver and the minnows, and it was super cute. So I think that was the main comment, was people felt like this visually didn't feel similar to the other times. I think that'll make it feel a little bit more connected.
This is the hardest one.
Yeah, this one's for sure the hardest one. And then and I don't know if Amy at all sent me, I don't think they did send me any of the concept for the cultural resource sign. But that's the main thing that I wanted to talk about with that cultural resource sign. Basically, and I wish I had taken a screen capture of it, but if we think back on what it's the land on which we stand.
Oh,
Right, do we remember?
okay, yeah.
The-
Came when and.
Yes, the one that
Yeah,
you had
I did with
drafted.
Lindsay.
Yes, that you'd done with Lindsay. So if we remember, it was broken out into this 12,000, 9,000, 3,000 years, and then contact with Europeans. The way that, because these are not like a consistent land shape, if you will, like it's instead like about a person. The artist, as a reminder, the artist is Abenaki, right? So we had a conversation about this contact with Europeans and the way that the sign sizes. I think if we did 4 small panels, each of them would be too thin. Like it looks kind of weird. They showed me both, like with 4 discrete pictures versus 3 discrete pictures. And their suggestion was to do the 3 with the 12,000, 9,000, 3,000. And then the context that would just be text on the sign instead of having it have its own like art panel. I don't know if everyone feels like comfortable with that. I think the artist just felt like it would be kind of hard to depict the contact of the Europeans in a way that she felt comfortable with, that she, you know what I mean? That yeah,
could be a little different.
that did service, I guess, to that. And I mean, I told her we had tons of conversations about this text, and so I think having it where it's almost basically, it would be like a panel, and then this would be the text. It would be like a thin panel with the text under it, thin panel, text under it, thin panel, text under it. And since the 3,000 years ago is such a small block of text, we would essentially, combine those into one block of text under that 3rd panel. So yeah, I mean, does everyone feel comfortable with that kind of layout, doing 3 pictures rather than the 4 pictures?
Yeah,
I think so.
that would be my.
Mhm.
Were you gonna say something, Royce?
No, I said I think so. I'm
Oh,
good.
okay. Cool. Okay, yeah, once the artist is on vacation through the end of the month, and so by our next meeting for September, that's basically right when she would get back to do the final art for this, and then the final little things on the watershed sign. So yeah, hopefully our goal with them was that essentially we would have the copy or the signs going to print by October by this week of October 12th, that's when they would go to print. So we'd have 2 weeks, right, where it's then, we could even go earlier if we're ready, right? If the art's ready and copy's ready, it'll go to print earlier, but I think it's like a drop dead by October 12th. So cool. Okay. Yeah, and I don't think I have. I think that's mostly the updates there. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the signage project? Sorry, cool. Okay, the next piece is the project planning. So I'm gonna open the floor for discussion on project planning for the upcoming year. The main item that we had under this was the connected backyard, so I'll pass that to Michelle.
Did you all get, I'm sorry, it was late, I sent an email just with some draft information and a description.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
didn't this afternoon. No,
So no.
I am looking.
I got it.
I had tried to open it and I was like, I'm not really sure why I can't open this file type.
here it is.
See how it's like a dot pages? It's like, I tried to look at it earlier and I was like, I'm not quite sure.
Did I do so? Am I using a weird? I might be using a weird program.
It says, yeah, it's like a dot pages, so that's not.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I forgot that. Okay, that's my. Should I read the project description?
Yeah, that's.
Okay. So we
Did you
did-
send that today?
Yeah,
Yeah, I said it today.
I did not get that.
Yeah, but I also sent it with a weird program because.
oh yeah, you
So it
didn't.
wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
Oh, I didn't.
I left them off the list.
Oh,
But I'll forward it on.
huge apologies.
Is it readable by?
You probably couldn't have opened it
Maybe
anyway.
someone, yeah, maybe someone could open it. I just don't know what the program is to open a dot pages, so.
So we came, Rose was big help in coming up with a short description of it, and I'll read it to you just so you can hear it. The Connected Backyards is a Montpelier Conservation Commission initiative that helps residents create wildlife-friendly backyards 1 yard at a time. Participants are paired, I'm not sure paired is right, but paired with a local volunteer biodiversity networker. I couldn't find any coaches. Often from their neighborhood net community to answer questions, brainstorm, and help research simple, excuse me, practical steps such as planting native flowers and shrubs, reducing the lawn area, replacing invasive plants, and creating habitat for pollinators, birds, and other wildlife. Together, Connected Backyards can form a citywide network of habitat that supports biodiversity while making neighborhoods greener, healthier, and more resilient. That's sort of the elevator pitch.
The elevator pitch, and I have a email that will be drafted and sent tonight to John Copens. And I'll CC you, Michelle. I found
There
it,
are a couple of things, like, I'm not sure they'll come from the neighborhood net community, but
yeah. Well, I mean, at least
from their community.
in our
let's say.
community, we do have someone who is willing to kind of like be a coach and like
Yeah.
do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For like our neighborhood net community.
That's
So
nice.
we could do like a pilot. You know, I've talked to a few of my neighbors and people
Nice.
into it. So, you know, if we want to do a pilot.
I've spoken to a lot of experienced gardeners who say, well, I know how to garden, but I don't know that much about native planting. So
Right.
they didn't feel like they could coach. So I made a description of what I thought a biodiversity networker might be, a job description.
Nice.
Biodiversity networkers are project volunteers who are experienced in at least one of the many aspects of creating wildlife habitat. either creating pollinator gardens or knowledgeable about biodiversity and sustainable land use and supportive resources. Networkers will support residents new to gardening or native planting, respecting their goals and pace, and connect them with answers and resources.
Yeah, that's good. Seems
That way you don't have to be an expert
Right.
in everything.
Yeah,
You don't have to be able to put in the garden.
that seems
So-
cool.
Anybody here can do that?
Put that in your recruitment.
Yes, good idea. I can do that, but anyway, so then I made a list of some of the possible project activities and materials. One, identification of biodiversity networkers through the Front Porch Forum. Biodiversity network resource meetings and coaching and consultation skills. Because consultation is different
Yeah,
than teaching.
right, yeah, you're essentially just providing like some technical.
Yeah, you're accepting their goals and their pace and blah, blah, blah. And I know how to consult, so I can help with that too. But if resources got together, then they would be able to share
Yeah,
the networks, they'd share resources. Neighborhood gatherings identified via local organizations such as the Resiliency Network and pairing with biodiversity networkers. This came out of, I met with the master gardener at North Branch Native Center, who's in charge of the pollinator gardener. She was very excited about this.
oh, good.
And she suggested that they could sponsor some Q&A
Oh, that'd be
session
awesome.
with master gardeners and maybe this Sarah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
different
That would be great.
plant experts,
Yeah,
and maybe some nursery people, so then they could sell some plants. This came from another person that I met with, developed some plant starts giveaways.
yeah,
Gail Quatras is the master gardener at North Branch
oh,
Nature Center. She thought she could imagine master gardeners starting some plants over the winter
yeah,
and have them at a table. And I forget what their spring event is. It's called a jamboree. Is it
yeah.
a biodiversity
I
jamboree
think that.
or pollinator jamboree? It's some kind of jamboree, right?
It's during the May, it's during the, no, it's like during the May,
Some kind of
Yeah.
May celebration.
it's a May.
They have
session.
plants and information. And it sounded like we might be able to squeeze in on their table.
Nice, that'd be good.
I know.
That'd be great.
I'm a squeezer. Here's another activity, volunteer opportunities to gardener with master gardeners at North Branch Nature Center's pollinators gardens, so they could go and garden with Gail. And I told her if we got a lot of volunteers, I would help with supervision. And then they may be able to take away divided plants too. Tabling at farmer markets and community events such as pollinator, jamboree, and also, I saw this Loomis Street party. I thought if we start having these neighborhood parties, maybe we could horn in.
Yeah,
Another activity, accessible handouts and materials, accessible handouts with basic information for increasing biodiversity in residential settings, yard signs, and creation of a downtown demonstration pollinator garden.
yeah.
I'm a volunteer for that. So
Okay.
that's the first. I don't know. It's hard to get feedback, I know, if you don't have it in front of you, but
I guess generally, does that sound like a project that, like, I know Michelle, you're going to kind of like be like kind of point person
I'm
on
willing
it.
to be a point
But
person.
I guess is everyone comfortable with that being part of like again, like one of our goals for this fiscal year is to kind of like stand up this outreach program, which does align right with that component of the city plan where we're being asked to establish a conservation outreach program. I don't even think it needs to be named that, but I think functionally this is kind of in
Yeah.
that same spirit, right, of what the town plan was getting at with an outreach program. So I think this is like pretty in line with
Yeah.
those goals, so, any feedback one way or the other?
I agree. I mean, I'm able to open it on my phone, so I don't know if that's
Oh.
so I'm kind of looking at it as well.
Great.
But
This is sort of, I don't know, do you all know Doug Talamy?
Mhm.
He's kind of an E.O. Wilson protege, and it's kind of along those lines of, it's really do simple things and make big differences. And I actually today saw an article that Sean Beckett wrote a while back about if you plant it, they will come, you know. So I think there's a lot of people kind of doing this. It's a lot of
Creating
going on,
network.
yeah.
Yeah,
And there are a lot of projects around.
yeah, for
So
sure.
this is just
Yeah.
a local one.
But yeah, I think this will be a great project to have as like our, you know, like one of our focuses for this upcoming year. I will also put out there that ABCC, the Association for Vermont Conservation Commission, is going to in the next I don't know, few weeks to couple of months, somewhere in the like, you know, 3 to 8 week time frame. I think we're gonna put out a poll to that Conservation Commission listserv, because we've gotten interest from a UVM professor that wants to pair students for a semester as an internship with the Conservation Commission. So that's where I don't know like how that's all gonna shake out. It's gonna really depend on like whether there's enough interest statewide, whether, you know, how the supervisory model with UVM works. But I do think that there's that potential opportunity there, and it was interesting. It sounds like a couple of, like, I know we did it with the PLACE program, but that was like a grad student. So this would be more like an undergrad student. So, you know, expecting them to be able to do like an entire, you know, park ecological assessments, probably outside of the realm of what an undergrad student would be able to do.
In what field is this?
In like you know, environmental planning, you know, that kind of I think it's their part of their like sustainability and conservation. It's like part of some class that they'd be doing the internship in.
Great.
So, but it doesn't sound like it's an existing class. Like this professor basically came to the board and was like, is this something we could do? And so, you know, we're going to try to feel out whether there's enough interest across the state to really warrant that, specifically outside of Chittenden County, because, you know, Chittenden County has a lot of capacity. I think the goal would be to pair students with, you know, other conservation commissions that aren't in the Chittenden County area. So it'll depend on how the input comes back on that survey, but I'm going to try to, I will pay attention, but I guess that's to say, you know, be thinking of that. I'd like to come back to that conversation in September of like whether we would want to try to have something like an internship program and what that could look like in regards to this or another initiative, how we would assign work. But I think the idea of having someone for capacity would be great. I think it's just a matter of if we are expected to be their supervisor, right? Like their supervisor, I think it would then be an expectation that we are meeting with that student and assigning work on a weekly basis, right? So we would have to kind of have that list of activities that we're going to give them. Okay, do this week. This is the next task. This is the next task. We'd have to be kind of mentally prepared to do that, you know. So, but yeah, I think that is like that's an opportunity for added capacity for sure. So it's just like, how would we want to see an intern engage, and what would that plan look like for us to actually do that? But that is something that I think, you know, I would like everyone to think on, and like, you know, if I think the connected backyards would be a really good project, especially since it's only like, you know, a 3-month semester or whatever, right? It's not like we're getting someone for like a whole year or 2 years, which is
big September, October, November.
The school semester, whatever that usual semesters. But I don't know that we would do it for this fall semester. I think it would be in the I think theoretically it would be spring semester.
That could be a good time to do it.
Yeah. So but yeah, does anyone else want to bring forward, you know, a project or priority that you'd like to see the commission focus on for this upcoming year outside of the connected backyards? Because I do want to try to do some like work planning.
You mentioned something that you wanted to have on the work plan. Did it have to do with mapping natural communities?
I would love to do a citywide, natural resource.
That might be also something for,
Yeah,
to-
that would be a great project for an intern, actually, to do I just think that our natural resource atlas at the city is like not very good. Or not that it's not good, it's just not existent, really, like you have to go to a bunch of different places to get
right,
the information, and so it would be nice to have like one place where it's like, I need to get a permit, like what resources do I have to care about, and they're all there from like the state level, the local level, right? Like that we can have one place where someone could look and say, this is the natural resource inventory of Montpelier. Because right now, it's something that's like, we do it in coordination with the regional planning commission, but they are the ones who like hold the map, so if we wanna make an update, we have to go to them and make the request to update it and all of that. And then we only have a PDF version of it, right? Like at least for the commission and like members of the public, it's typically when you access the natural resource inventory from Montpelier, it's like a PDF, like this is what the inventory is. It's like, it'd be nice to have something that's a little bit more like usable, right? So yeah, that's something that I would really like to do long term, is to get all of those layers and have a actual like resource that we put out with the atlas. But yeah, I think that's definitely something that I've wanted to do for a while, and you're right, it would be a good project for an intern. So
have to break it down into steps.
right, yeah, that would be the key. But I think that for 3 months, that's definitely like definitely a possibility to.
It sounds
It's
like
just
something she could work
the
on.
key
She
is-
could work on separately.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah, could work on
it's just that we have, and this is where my hiccup has been, is getting the access through the city's back end.
GIS,
GIS, yeah,
our GIS.
so,
Something relates to that is, like I said, there's 2,000 acres of Montpelier being proposed for planned growth area. And planned growth area means that if the city could apply next year to turn for tier 1A status for any parcels in that, which then eliminates Act 250 jurisdiction. So if you wanted to inventory and potentially have priority preservation scrutiny, you would have to start with these planned growth area proposals and be prepared to act quickly, because there's a narrow window to intervene when someone applies for tier 1A. And if you lose Act 250 jurisdiction, you're entirely reliant on city to protect your resources.
but yeah, that would be the key. And I have not looked at the proposed growth areas in a bit, so.
Well, that sounds like a great benefit to the city.
Right, yeah, I mean, yeah, for a more centralized or like usable natural resource inventory, for sure. I think it just is with the proposed growth area, that's where, again, it comes down to, it's a zoning designation.
But no, that's not zoning.
Your proposed growth area.
No, the planned growth areas are set by the region and approved by the land use review board of the state. Zoning happens within those.
Yeah,
Zoning is a different thing entirely, but you might want to look at having the regional planning commission host it, because they're already hosting a GIS publicly accessible
right,
for the planned growth areas. In fact, that's the link you would follow to see what's been proposed. And they could do it without having the city planning department claim we don't have the resources to put the natural resources inventory together.
yeah, okay. Yeah, it's very good.
So I would support that in some way.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, we need to do an update. I mean, the last update that we did with the RBC was the vernal pool update after we did the phase 1 of that project with the field verification of the vernal pools. That data set was the last data set that went over to the RBC for updating. They did make the update based on that though, so, but we haven't done any other huge changes since that project, because it was just the, sending in the field verified vernal pools, so.
Right.
But yeah, I think having something that's a little bit more dynamic and not just a PDF would be great for us to use, so.
Might you wanna map the impact of this new stipulation that the governor entered into that cuts the buffer areas on
Oh,
water in half?
yeah, that's where. I don't know that. I don't know whether. I don't know how much that. I don't know whether there's a difference. How it'll impact our riparian area code. I'm not
Well,
sure
you
about
could have
that.
people building twice as close to the,
Right, yeah.
right,
But the riparian area, that's where I thought that was a separate city level regulation, not the state level.
But if you're mapping it, you don't have to make a decision about that, right? You just say where things
Right,
are.
yeah, that would be the general gist. I mean, but you can, I mean, the existing tools that the state puts out, you can put a buffer like that on the layer, such as it is.
Oh,
Yeah, you just would change your
Never
buffer
done that.
from like a 25 feet to a 50, you know, 50
The other way
feet to
around.
25 feet, yeah. But I mean, in Montpelier, there are places where it's 100 feet too, so I think, again, there's some designation that makes certain waterways like a larger buffer beyond what the state requires, right? So more
like the
restrictive.
confluence or something.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure, but I do think that, I don't think they have a map of like where those sections of waterway go out to 100 feet, where they constrict to 50 feet, where they would constrict even further if they're following state jurisdiction.
and do we get preempted, does municipal get preempted by that stipulation?
I don't believe they get preempted. I was not under the impression that they would be preempted. I was under the impression that the local jurisdiction would still, if it was more restrictive, that it would be retained. But again, I'm not sure if there was changes like in the final passage of it or how the city plans on implementing it.
So provisionally, could you stick a planned growth area and CCR, PGA and CCR on your potential work program list for discussion in the future?
Yeah, we can include, I mean, we'll come back to that discussion at our next meeting of like whether there is like a larger level, like, what I wanna do is I wanna come for next, maybe not, and it might not be next one for CCR, but for at least the connected backyards that we've talked about several months over, that we have like a fiscal year 27 work plan that we vote on and say, yes, this is our plan, like this is our project that we're focusing on, this is this other project, that's what I would like to get to, is that we have a formal work plan for each fiscal year that we basically pass out and say, you know, if you are the lead point person for connected backyards, we are allowed to establish essentially like committees that can work together, so long as that committee does not have the quorum. So, right, so that's part of the reason that Conservation Commission, at least how it was explained to me, it was 9, because they had previously, many years ago, they had these little committees.
Right,
So you could have 3 people on a committee
right,
or 3 or 4 people on a committee without any quorum.
right.
Whereas now that's put us in a bit of a bind because we don't have the same level of engagement.
Right.
So if we shrunk, right, then that's where we would then would have that issue of your committee would only be able to have 2 people or 3 people,
But-
right? So
Does everybody on the committee have to be a conservation member? That you could have working committees with.
yeah, I think
public.
you can have working committees with like other members of the
Right,
public.
right.
It's just that you can't, there's multiple commission members that can't break over that quorum. And so basically it would always have to come back to the commission
Right.
for like action, right? And those votes would still happen at the commission level.
Certain kinds of action,
Certain kind of action, yeah.
right, because you
Like-
might be, certain other actions. would be done.
Establishing the committee
Right,
You're right, like establishing a subcommittee, that would be an action at the commission level.
right,
But you guys printing pamphlets,
right,
I mean, even that, right, we're expending
Well,
budget, so
money.
then it would then come to the commission. But if you were like, we're gonna do this outreach event free of charge and
Right.
we're doing it,
Yeah.
I think. You
Right.
could probably get away with that, but it's like, if you're gonna spend money,
right,
if you're gonna like change the structure,
Right.
anything like that would have to
Right.
come to vote, so.
Actually, that one just came up at the Arts Commission, and the Arts Commission is considered advisory,
Yeah.
which means that. Under a certain threshold, the city manager can sign off on the expenditures. But above that. Actually, Kelly, you could be interested in, we're talking about the committee authority to expand. And the Arts Commission has to, up to a certain threshold, has to have Kelly sign off on it. Because this isn't an executive body, you can't spend money at all.
Right.
You get a budget. But above that, then it goes to the.
Yeah,
council.
right, but I doubt we would ever spend above the budget we got, I mean, we've been
No,
operating for several
You
years.
can't- all you can do is vote to add Kelly to.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
well, this is our first year with the budget in quite a while, so. So yeah, it'll be a new experience, so, yeah. Okay. Well, that brings us to the item that we added about the structure of the commission. And so I guess overall, we were just talking about pros and cons of, contracting the commission, right?
Right.
Becomes smaller opportunity, smaller groups for committees, right? So then it does land more on one point person. I would argue that that's currently the situation we're in already. So I don't necessarily see that as a con.
right,
So for me, the pros of contracting so that we need quorum outweighs
right,
like a long-term potential of the committee structure. But I think going down to 5 would be tough because then you would only be able to have a committee of 2, which I think
Right.
is a little small depending on what things we pick up over, over time. So that's where I would lean more towards a 7 personally to like recommend that to city council and retain our alternative, our alternate.
plus an
member.
alternate,
Right, plus the alternate,
Alternates still get to vote.
no, they don't. Unless we are not in a quorum, then I do believe alternates would then have voting power. So essentially they serve as that, that buffer, it's like, it's that moment of like, oh, we don't have quorum. But if our alternate member shows up, then they can vote and meet the quorum requirement. So it kind of acts as that buffer there, and so that would be my general recommendation, is that we try to seek downsizing to a 7+, 7+1 alternate. And honestly, I think we might even have 2 alternates right now. I think we might have 2 alternate spots, not even.
I think you're right,
Yeah.
I looked at that,
So,
I tried to talk a teacher into being an alternate with a student.
and people do like the alternate positions, I will say, I've had success in past years having someone sign up as an alternate that has a really solid background, expertise, but they only want to do it for the 1 year.
Yeah.
Because those alternate positions are 1-year
Or
terms.
1 year.
So it's like, I've done it before where it's like, oh, we brought someone in just for that 1 year, for
Yeah.
that part of the project, and they're an alternate member. That has the technical expertise and is willing to commit to the year. The rest of our seats are like 3 to 4 years or something, which is
Right.
a hard thing to get people to commit to, even though there's no restriction for walking. But, yeah, I think people are.
No, you can't leave.
Right, I think people are like hesitant when they see the 4-year term, they're just like, oh, okay.
Can I just throw one more idea in here, that if you figure out whether you're gonna tackle Country Club Road, that might affect how many people, there's
Right.
people who are fired up about making sure that gets done right, and that might be willing to join.
Yeah,
It might not need to shrink to 7,
right,
So that's worth thinking about, the sequencing of.
Yeah.
That.
So don't go to the city council right away.
I mean, we could try to do a call between now and our next meeting.
Okay.
And if we get at least one or two applicants, I would be willing to like not, but. Again, I'm gonna be a little bit
So,
surprised. if we
The
get
call
an
is
applicant,
through
but-
Front Porch Forum, and can we,
And the
can this-
city will do,
and
like
this-
the social media, stuff like that.
so I should contact Evelyn
You can, that would be great, yeah,
to ask for,
for her to make the, I mean, again, if you have your post, you can give her that, like,
Okay.
the text, right? So she can
okay,
make the same, messaging, so. She'll probably change the verbiage a little bit, just so that they're not exactly the same, that's what she usually does, and it's more of like, you know, from the city's perspective, but, at least like your main points, right? Like,
I'll draft it, but I'd
yeah,
like to run it by,
well, you can't do the whole community. You
Oh, I
only
can't
run
do
it by, you can only run it by a few, that's where it's like, if you run it by the whole committee, that's where it has to be done in,
oh, I see,
yeah. So,
okay,
I think she could send it to the whole committee, they just can't respond.
right, so you
So-
can't actually get the feedback, so I mean, everyone can read it, but.
is that why I?
No, they
created
can't
the
respond to
feedback?
the whole committee, they can
Right.
respond to one person, but you might put something out and say, if you like, have comments on this, send it to the chair. You know?
Right,
So, okay, so is that when I've been sending out stuff, is it because I don't get feedback, is that because you're not supposed to
Yeah, it
respond?
creates an open meeting, it called a serial deliberation, electronic open meeting law violation.
Oh,
that's why I typically respond to you directly.
ah,
Right, and instead of CCing. the
Okay.
whole committee, but I mean, we don't we generally do no business over email, that's like my general policy, and, you know, so that's where.
I just feel like a new member, I wanna be,
That's why we have all these sessions where we do the editing, and, you know, it's annoying to do here, but that's really how we're supposed to be doing it, right, so. So all the text and all that stuff that we've done over the last 6 months, we had to do it here because it has to be public.
okay,
So that's where, yeah, it can definitely make things more difficult. That's why when we draft stuff, right, it's either
yeah,
comes directly from only me and it doesn't include your guys' names if I have to do something
yeah,
like more immediate. Because you guys all have to see it and approve it before it has everyone's names on it, so. You know, it's only been like, I think there's only been one time that I've had to send something individually as a chair. And again, it was from me as the individual, like I couldn't send it as me, like representing the Conservation Commission. I had to send it as me as an individual member of the public.
so when
Which
I worked on the sign with Lindsay,
It was just the two of you, so you were under that, and then you brought it back to the commission, right?
right,
And then we all reviewed it and made edits here,
okay.
yeah.
So would somebody work with me on the verbiage on this, is that what the request I should make?
Yes, yeah,
Recruiting.
Would
Yeah.
somebody on the commission work with me on the verbiage for this recruitment?
I can do that.
all right.
And that's
Royce,
Royce, who I left out of the email.
unfortunately.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna say. Michelle and Royce. Will work on the language and posting,
And then just go ahead and post it.
yeah.
We don't have to wait.
But
until
they put it
September.
in the city manuals, managers
Yeah.
report
So
to
like, it'll be in there,
open committee solicitation.
yeah. And so it'll be there, they'll post it on, they'll
I
have
think
like a
Front
little
Porch
news
Forum
thing
is
on the
the,
thing, they'll post it on their Facebook sometimes, they'll post it on Instagram sometimes, Evelyn will do all the city.
okay,
Social medias and things,
Right.
and like the weekly report, like, they'll put it in all the places that they would generally put it, but anything that's like beyond. Coming from the city of Montpelier, we would do individually as, you know, individuals trying to recruit,
and that's what I'll do on the
Yeah.
porch forum.
yeah,
Okay. I'm a member. Right.
okay. Yeah,
I can say I'm a member.
if you're a commissioner, yeah.
Yeah, commissioner.
Okay, yeah, we're a commission, so everyone's a commissioner on here, so that's great.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move us to topics for September meeting. I will put the Country Club Road. I'm also going to for everyone's awareness, send you what we sent as our initial feedback. We did do a lot of this mapping and all of that when we sent our first letter, so, you know, I'll send that back out so that everyone kind of have a refresh of what we've already said on record.
Well,
So
a lot,
that-
a lot
yeah.
has changed.
A lot has changed, but I don't want us to be like, let's now rip down all these forests, right? Like, I want us to be largely consistent
Right.
with our general position that we were before. Our membership hasn't changed hugely, like me, Paul, Nolan, we've all still been, we were part of the initial. I don't want us to have like a huge shift.
Right.
But we'll see. I mean, I think largely it was just that it was such a preliminary site plan that it was kind of like, these are the blocks that we want to see untouched, basically. And then within the developed area, this is what we would prefer, right? Like native plantings, things like that. We did not at all mention any agricultural use of it. So, you know, again, I'll send out what we initially put out there.
Did you anticipate a road going out the west edge into Saban's pasture?
I know, because at that point they had told us that that would be a future state.
Right, but all that has to be planned before you get an Act 250 permit, so.
Yeah, that's where, at that time, it was not part of the project, that
See,
part portion of the project was not part of their scope.
Well, a multimodal plan, it is required even to get plant growth area, so.
Right,
So if that's the way a multimodal path has to come,
right,
then
yeah,
that impacts what you may have to revisit whether you don't want any.
yeah, oh yeah, I
And
know,
water, the Public Works has put in writing that they want an alternate
route,
water main
yeah,
in so that a Route 2 Country Club Road breakage or blockage wouldn't protect fire, wouldn't impede fire safety.
Right.
yeah,
So those are things that basically whatever you said earlier was based on a cartoon, not a plan.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, I just, you know, I think generally still, like,
That'll be good for information.
yeah, it's good background information, right,
Could you make sure I get copies of all that too? Yes. Thank you.
I will send it separately though.
So we'll talk, in September, we'll also talk about recruitment and revisit forum
Yeah.
commission structure.
Revisit the commission structure conversation. I don't expect us to have any signage work, really. I think it's pretty much, we're done with any part coming to this. I think where it's like, the only thing I'll have is probably round robin update of like the updates are, but we've approved the copy, we've approved the general concept. I don't foresee us having that be a part of the agenda moving forward. Now it's just implementation, aside from, you know, planning the outreach of that, but I don't think we'll have to do any more copy edits or anything like that. That's all been done, so yeah. And then, yeah, hopefully we can then vote on a draft work plan that includes the connected backyards and the natural resource inventory. If, depending on how the conversation is with the Country Club Road, then we would just make an amendment to that work plan, but I at least want a work plan that has our 2 items on it, so. Okay, parks update, Kira's not here, so we're not doing a parks update unless anyone else has parks updates from Kira. But I did not get.
There's a new greenhouse up there at Country Club Road. Big soil disturbance. That might be what triggered Act 250.
Yeah. Okay, and then round robin. Does anyone have general updates for our round robin? I do think that there's still spots in the state's environmental leadership training, so people want to take that. I do think it's still out there.
Completely.
I know you had done it, so if others are interested. I know Nolan's done it too, so, you know, just for Paul and Royce out there, ELT, I do think, I thought I heard,
I thought it
Thought I
was
saw
well done,
Jens,
really well done.
yeah, Jens is awesome, so the Fish and Wildlife folks who lead it are great, so, yeah, but I think Jens sent out an email a couple of days ago saying I still have open spots, so if that's of interest, you know, it's on the listserv, so,
Could you send me that link? Do you remember?
yeah. Again, that's not ours, it's
Yeah.
not something that we send out, it's just part of a listserv. I don't know that I have here.
WHIT.
I know, I don't think I have here.
Oh, this is your personal evidence.
Environmental leadership training, you can
Yeah,
Google it, it'll show up. In your pen,
yeah,
Yeah, I'll find it.
yeah, it's on, it's, if you.
That's
find
all
it,
right.
Yeah, it's
Finish your round.
yeah, okay. Where am I here? Okay, any other round robin updates? Okay. Hearing none. I motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I'm gonna give it to Nolan. You haven't gotten on the agenda or on the minutes yet, so I'm gonna give it to Nolan. Do I hear any opposed? Okay, that'll adjourn us at 7:42. Thank you guys. And like I said, you'll see some things from me, so.
see you in September.
See you, yeah, so next meeting is September 16th. Write it down now,
Mhm.
September 16th, so. Okay, cool beans, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Arguing in the Supreme Court on the day before that over the. It's a question of